Good morning, everybody. Happy Friday and welcome to your Rangers Review morning briefing for Friday, the 6th of December. I'm Derek Clark and brings me great joy to say we're joined by Jonny McFarlane to round off the week. How's it going, Jonny?
Great, Derek. Glad to be on. Always seem to get pulled into these things when something major's happened or after something disastrous, but I don't think the AGM was too bad yesterday, but I know that I'm going to get asked some difficult questions, so let's get stuck in.
Yes, absolutely. If you want to get your questions in today, folks, then please do. There's plenty to talk about, both from yesterday's AGM. There's a number of interesting points raised, and also looking ahead to Sunday when Rangers travel up to the Highlands to take on Ross County, hopefully building on what was the best performance of the season, domestically anyway, against Kilmarnock on Wednesday night. So, let's crack on in. Right, the AGM yesterday, of course, myself and Chris was in attendance at the Armadillo yesterday. We were on for a bit of a report yesterday afternoon about some of the talking points from that. It's fair to say, I think player trading is very much one of the main takeaways from it, Jonny, when we discovered the amount of money that Rangers recouped for 5 players who departed in the summer. Niels Coppin also gave a presentation describing the squad of last season, squad of this season, and how he has reduced the average age of the squad, and also looking to increase the overall value of the squad as well, and reducing the wage bill. The wage bill has been reduced from £41 million to the current team running around 35 million, which is a reduction of around £6 million, which is good going, you've got to say, in the summer. However, the departure of those 5 players, Cantwell, Goldson, Lammers, Wright and McCrory, certainly going by social media, I certainly couldn't believe the figure when I heard it. I think it was mooted a few weeks ago. It was confirmed yesterday, around £800,000. Supporters not best pleased at the type of business Rangers are conducting with regards to that.
Well, I think that's completely understandable. What Rangers had to do was get players off the wage bill that were on large salaries and free up space to bring in younger players with more potential, players who were better suited to the style of football Philippe Clement wanted to play. That's the official line. You look at someone like Sam Lammers and they'll say, look, he had 3 years left on his deal, 30 grand a week, so £1.5 million a year times 3, £4.5 million. Ultimately, you just got to draw a line under a transfer that hasn't worked out and save yourself that money rather than worrying about recouping a transfer fee you're never going to get back. I find that very, very difficult to stomach, Derek. I understand why they didn't want to gamble and say, no, we're not going to play hardball on this player. We just want to get him out, because there was pressure on to bring players in, and the board didn't want to get into a situation where they were stuck with a load of guys on big wages who weren't taking part in the first team squad come the end of the window. But Sam Lammers, I put this out on Twitter last night, Derek. I just had a wee look at how he's performed. Now, let's bear in mind that he's in the Eredivisie, which is absolutely a better league than Scotland. There is no doubt. Nobody on the comments would say Scotland's better than the Dutch league. And in the calendar year, so from January when he moved to FC20 to now, 6th of December, so it's not even a full calendar year, Sam Lammers has made 40 appearances, not 40 starts, 40 appearances. He's got 19 goals and 5 assists. Now, for a player you've practically let go for nothing, that's a pretty high performance level in a pretty good league. And for me, I just look at it and think there was interest in Cyril Dessers. You know, Lammers hadn't had a chance as a striker. We'll never know if Lammers could have actually turned it round and made it at Rangers, because he was played out of position his entire time here. He's a central striker, and you're seeing that in Holland. And if it was me looking at it, and you could only get Lammers out on a free, given what he did in that spell in Holland on loan, in the second half of last season, I'd have been looking at getting Dessers out and giving Lammers an opportunity. And then in the January window or in this summer's window, if it doesn't work out still, if he's not right for Rangers, then you would have looked to have moved them on. But listen, Derek, ultimately, Philippe Clement will have seen him in training and made up his own mind. Maybe he decided that Sam Lammers just wasn't going to cope with the Rangers from a point of view of the mentality, and certainly there was some evidence to suggest that he struggled in that regard. Maybe he thinks that Sam Lammers wouldn't be suited to Scottish football. He's more of a laconic style, skillful style of play, where when he has a little bit more time on the ball, he's got more opportunity to show what he's made of. But it's just an enormous disappointment, I would say, for anyone who has Rangers close to their hearts to look at the quality of player that's gone out there for 800 grand. Connor Goldson was not the player that he was when he arrived at the club. Still think he's better than any of the defenders that are currently there at the moment. He was on a big wage, but to allow him, a European finalist, a title winner, to walk out the door for part of an £800,000 package, seems to be strange. And then Todd Cantwell, whatever we've said about Todd Cantwell, and I was a big critic, the boy has an awful lot of talent. And again, to be allowed to leave for such a small amount, you must be talking about, I don't know, £300,000-400,000 or something like that. It just doesn't seem right. Now, behind the scenes, there's stuff going on, Derek. The Rangers are not run by people who have no clue what they're doing. There are people in there who make these decisions, and they must have been made for a reason. And the reason is to clear out the wage bill of high earners. But I think you can see the reaction that is stuck in a lot of craws to let go that amount of quality for that amount of money. Yep. And I can understand completely why.
Yeah, but I mean, I could understand if they're all poor players, bad eggs, injury prone, all that sort of thing, and you just need to get them off the wage bill. But they would have all contributed. Maybe not Robbie McCrory as much of the others, but they've been sold off as a job lot, like you say, car boot sale fashion, and it really is unacceptable for me, the amount of money that has been recouped for those. And then looking at the squad just now, Johnny, there's others there. You're thinking to yourself, are you going to recoup anywhere near the sort of valuation for them? I'm thinking guys like Rabi Matondo, who still injured at this moment in time. There's others, Tom Lawrence, of course. Kieran Dowell is there, although Rangers just brought him in on a free from Norwich. There's other guys in that squad that are going to have to shift out that are on decent wages.
Yeah, I mean, for me, Derek, for me, there's two priorities in the January window, and that's to move on Cyril Dessers and Robin Proper. I'll start with Robin Proper. I don't think he's a bad player. I can understand why they brought him in. A guy with a lot of experience, again, performed really well in the Eredivisie over a number of years. FC20 were a Champions League club in terms of their rankings. They came fourth in the league. And you're thinking you can go and get this guy for 1.5 million, bring him in, add that experience. His wages are a lot less than Connor Goldson. And he's got a great ping, brings the ball out, very, very comfortable, plays on the left side. It makes sense. But ultimately, Robin Proper's too old to be given 2 years to get used to Scottish football. He needs to, he's one of those signings that needs to be brought in to immediately succeed.
Yeah.
And I just don't think that's going to happen. So for me, you're ruthless about it. You go back to the market and you try and get them back to Holland, and you look to recoup whatever money you can, but you just draw a line under it. And the second one that I would go for to try and push them out the door would be Cyril Dessers. We know what we're going to get from Cyril Dessers. You're going to get 2 goals when you're 4-0 up. That's when he delivers his best work, and that's just not good enough for Rangers for me. I don't think his all-round play befits a Rangers number 9. It's no surprise to me that once Danilo comes back into this team, you're starting to see a little bit of a spark up top. Eggman doing the same thing. While I salute Cyril Dessers for always being available, I'm not having that he's ever going to be a Rangers striker. So given his record, I think you can get him out the door for a bit of cash. There was certainly a significant amount of interest coming from him from America and the MLS. And to me, that would be one that you would absolutely push. You would say, Cyril Dessers, look, you're not going to play. Get yourself a move away. Thanks for your service. And I just think a really, really strong decision has to be made on proper Derek. I heard Davy Moyes talk about his transfer policy. And he talked about being ruthless. I always remember Graham Souness being like this. And Moyes said that, 3 or 4 weeks, that's all you need to know how a player's going to settle. You watch them in training, and he said, you just know by that point. And he said, one of the things that I did, which I think worked out for me, was I didn't mess around. If I didn't think they were right for the team or didn't think they were right for the club, paid $5 million for them, I'd go to the chairman and say, look, just get them out the door. If it's $3 million, we take the hit. It's a mistake, and you move on. You recycle that money into someone else who might come onto a game and be worth more. And I think that's what Rangers need to do.
Yeah, just on Dessers, a point that came in from CDM55 says Dessers is the top scorer in the league. Just saying, he does have a decent record, Johnny. I mean, he came off the pitch the other night there and bagged a brace. So you will have to bring it. I mean, if you're looking to sell Dessers, Rangers would have to bring in a replacement, someone that you can rely on to get you goals. It's okay, just selling him. I know that was around £4 million in the summer. Atlanta United were putting on the table for him. Didn't fancy it. Listen, Rangers would need to bring in someone that can contribute goals, because I remain to be convinced. Great to see Danilo marking his first league start in a year with a goal on Wednesday night. Still jury's out on whether he can bag you around 20 plus goals for me. Hamza Igaman is burst on the scene again. He's raw. I don't think you can hang your hat on. He's going to get you a huge amount of goals as well. So it's a sort of catch-22 with Dessers for me. I get your point. I don't think he's the number one striker at Rangers, but he's certainly contributing.
I don't understand this Dessers defence. I really don't. I mean, he's a guy that doesn't score big goals in big games. He misses big chances in big games. It's happened time and time again. His link-up play is abysmal. And I'm sorry, I know it's a strong opinion, but I think most people who watch Rangers consistently share this opinion, and that is that he's just not good enough. Lovely guy. I've interviewed him. I've spoken to him. Lovely guy. I'm sure he's good to have around the dressing room. I don't think he's a bad player. I just don't think he's been used correctly, and I don't think he suits the club. I think that he's a guy who likes to be on the shoulder. Josh has done a lot of pieces about this on the website. I think he would thrive maybe in a front two, but Rangers don't play that way, and that's a completely separate discussion. You've got a man there who is pushing into his 30th year, if he's not already there. I can't remember his exact age, Derek. He was 29 when he signed, so maybe he's 30 now. Yeah. You're in the last chance saloon to get him out the door and get some money back in. When he's 31, you're talking about a transfer fee that's chopped back. So no, I'm unrepentant about this, and I don't care what anyone comes at me with. I look at Dessers with the eye test, not the number of goals he scores when it comes to irrelevant games or games against the lower lights in the league, or games when it's late on and Rangers are already a few goals up and he bangs a couple in. Not having it. What do you think? I mean, do you not agree?
Well, he's 30 on Sunday. He's the birthday boy on Sunday when Rangers go to Ross County. Usually when players celebrate their birthday, they have a successful game. So let's hope he bags a hat-trick at Dingwall, the infamous venue where he blazed over the bar and almost into somebody's house when Rangers went on to lose 3-2 last season. But he contributes for me. Listen, if a team comes in with £4 million for him, I'm taking it. However, I don't want him sold off like the 5 players we just mentioned there, just to get them off the wage bill. I don't think that would benefit Rangers whatsoever. They paid a pretty penny to entice him to the club in the first place, from Italy, of course. So I don't think it should be a case of just writing players off, getting rid of them. Rangers need to start bringing in transfer fees for players. We see it across the city, of course. They bring in substantial fees for players who don't even contribute to the first team. Rangers need to start doing that. They need to be better at negotiating, surely.
Yeah. Listen, I think that's going to happen. You're talking about a guy who has spent 18 years at Manchester United, and Patrick Stewart, who his entire job was for a period was around agreeing transfer deals, agreeing corporate deals. He's done lots and lots of negotiations. This is not a guy who's inexperienced, like I think James Bisgrove was, obviously arriving into the role, not having had that background in football when he was made CEO and doing a number of those deals. Patrick Stewart, I think, will be certainly from his CV an upgrade in that regard, and you have to hope that he can certainly set that back right, because it's not been right at Rangers for a long time. The finance director was brutally honest about it, wasn't he, yesterday at the AGM, saying it's been effectively broken for a long time, and we all know that. Anyone who watches this club closely knows that it's not been right for a significant period, and it's something they have to realign, get back up and running, because without it, this club is in dire straits. The whole strategy is around the player trading model working to allow Rangers to overspend in the same way that other big clubs in small leagues are doing. You see Porto, Benfica, Ajax are having a difficult time, but they've done it well over the years. PSV, Feyenoord, all these big clubs in smaller leagues, this is what they do. And, it'll be painful for people to hear, but you look across the city and they've done it very, very well as well. And that's why they've had so much success over the last 10 years in terms of their accounts and their finances, because they've got the player trading thing right. Rangers haven't.
Yeah. I mean, I just focus mainly on Rangers, but it seems to be a case that this generally undervaluation of players at the football club throughout the years, not just recently as well. I mean, down the years as well, I think that Rangers haven't got bang for their buck for departures, and let's hope that changes. Like you say, John, sorry, when Patrick Stewart comes into the club, Rangers need to be better at selling players. It was discussed, that player trading model is non-existent at this moment in time. It has to start working. I think it was said at the AGM, I think it's one season out of 10, the Bassi season, when he was sold on for big money to Ajax. But Rangers cannot expect to compete, for me, if that continues. They need to start getting players out the door at peak valuation and reinvesting into the squad. So let's hope that happens from January onwards. You want to jump in there?
Yeah, I was just going to say that that one season out of 10 is correct, but it also hides a bit of context. So just as a slight defence, I would say the club made a big error with Ryan Kent and a big error with Alfredo Morelos. When £14 million was on the table for Kent and 16 and a half for Alfredo Morelos. Steven Gerrard should have been overridden for those, and then the club would be in a healthier overall state if they'd done those deals. I do think it's important to say this. It's a bit of context. COVID really, really damaged what Rangers, I think, planned to do, because at that point, all the middle market clubs stopped buying. And you think of the talent that was in that 55 team, some of those players really should have been sold on and should have gone on for a profit. You think of people like Glenn Kamara, a right good player, Derek, and he's gone and shown that at Leeds, hasn't he?
Yeah, and he's now at where is he now? He's at some French side.
Yeah, he went to France. I don't know how he's doing there, but certainly by the time Rangers let him go, his value dropped. You think of someone like Borna Barisic. I know he's got his critics, but if you sold him after 55, I think he got 19 or 20 assists in the league that year. I talk about selling guys at the right time, but COVID really, really damaged that middle of the road market that Rangers kind of operate in. And I think that was also a function of this, to be fair, as well. But listen, having said that, there's no doubt that the track that they're on at the moment in terms of this summer, it's a difficult one. It's a painful one in a way, because if you're bringing in players like Barron, Igaman, Jeffy, you're going to have a period where they get used to the idea of playing for Rangers. They're young guys.
Yes.
But I think from those three names that I just mentioned, that's to me three very, very talented players. None of the three of them are perfect, but Derek, they're players that over the next 2 or 3 years could really grow into something that are very, very valuable for the club. And to me, this window, if I'm seeing like little green shoots, it's that Rangers have got a squad there that I think with some quality added in there, some targeted quality in the winter window and in the summer, I can start to see, it coming together down the line. But Rangers fans want success now, and that's the problem. That's the problem. And listen, the money they pay Derek, the amount they pay on their shirts, the amount they pay them their tickets, you can understand why they demand success, because this is a support that is very, very, very generous in terms of backing the club.
Yeah. Let's get to some interesting points that are coming in. First of all, if someone can help this chap out, it says, good morning all. In Munich next Sunday, is there a bar I can see the game in? So if you can help him out, then please do so. We were in Munich in the summertime, Johnny. Lovely city. I never came across any Rangers bars, I've got to say.
Well, we met each other in Munich, Derek.
We did,
it's the only foreign city that we've actually physically met in. But no, I mean, I don't know about that. There will be somewhere, absolutely 100% somewhere in the city centre that will have that game on. I have no doubt. The thing is with Munich, of course, it's all kind of brauhauses. There's not a culture of Sky Sports, is there? It's kind of you sit down and you get absolutely blotto. You just
get the steins in.
Yeah.
Just on your point on Proper, I wanted to raise this because he's someone that was brought in the summer. There was a lot of excitement around him because there was a clamour from his existing club and other clubs in Italy to sign him, and that is Clinton Enciala. Mark the point. Why don't we play Clinton Enciala at centre-half? I feel like he's been forgotten. Sent off in the B team's defeat to Queen's Park during the week for a collision on Zach Rudden, former Rangers youth player, of course. I thought we might have seen him before now, Johnny. I watched him in the pre-season game at St Andrews against Birmingham. Rangers were an abomination, but I thought he had some decent moments in that game. Haven't seen him since. By all accounts, the coaching staff don't feel he is ready to feature for the first team, which for me is a tad disappointing given what we're told in the summertime that Milan were looking to keep him.
Yeah, I mean, it was a weird one because he was kind of trumpeted as a signing, wasn't he? And then the club were quite quick to kind of say, look, he needs a bit of time, he's raw. This is not going to be one for the here and now. It's more of a development signing. So I think there was maybe some issues around just kind of how it was pitched at the time. I spoke to Joshua about Enciala, and he didn't know why he got sent off. He said no one saw the incident. It was an off-the-ball incident. So they think there was some sort of elbow there maybe or something like that, and that's why he got punted. But Josh said that Rangers were playing superbly, and Enciala was part of that before he got sent off. So really, really unfortunate that happened, and a big learning point for the young man. But I would just see him more as Derek, I think, for the next, certainly for this season and next. If he starts to make a play for the first team, I think the club would be very happy. I think it's more like the season after that you'd be looking at for him to really push on. I think he's got a lot of learning to do from a football sense, from a tactical sense, also getting used to what the Scottish game's all about. He spent all that time in Italy, so I just erase him from your mind as one of the centre backs. The centre backs are Suter, Proper, Balogun primarily, and I think that those are the guys that are going to be at the forefront probably as we move forward.
I think they need to bring in another centre-half in January. Dougie with the point says Clinton will go out on loan in January, will be in the squad next season, in his opinion. I would be looking to send him out on loan. The manager did speak at yesterday's AGM about the academy and having a track record of playing young players at previous clubs. And he says the gap between the B team and the first team at this moment in time is too big, and they are trying to close that so that the young players can feature more for the first team, that they're getting involved in training more than what they're doing just now. He says it doesn't help with the B team structure. the fact that they don't play regular games. Of course, they're just playing. They were playing the SPFL Trust Trophy and just really ad hoc best v best matches against teams, really, and that's about it. So I can see that being a good move for Nsiala, Jonny. There's others in that B team. I don't think it does them any good being part of it. I'm thinking Robbie Fraser, Leon King, Adam Devine, Alex Lowry, these sort of guys, Cole McKinnon, Zach Lovelace even.
Yeah, I think it was a terrible decision to come out of the Lowland League. Now, the Lowland League wasn't perfect. I understand it was kind of a managerial push at the time. Michael Beale wasn't a big fan of the Lowland League and kind of felt like a best v best would be better and wielded a bit of influence over that. I don't agree with that at all. I think it's not worked out. You've just got these academy games. I think these guys will learn more from being up against men, even though it's men at a lower level. There is no perfect solution to this, Derek. So it's all imperfect. But I think Lowland League is the best, worst option. And Rangers should have remained in the Lowland League. And that would have helped some of these youngsters. Alex Lowry's passed the Lowland League. I don't understand the loan policy at Rangers. Why is Leon King not out on loan? Why is Bailey Rice not out on loan? I don't get it. Surely Bailey Rice would have learned more playing every week for Derek McInnes's Kilmarnock than he would in the B team. Derek, there's very few players I look at in that youth team or have over the last few years and thought, yep. There's maybe three. The two that always jumped out to me were Nathan Patterson and Calvin Bassey. When I saw Calvin Bassey playing for Leicester, I thought, wow, what a player he's going to be. And then when you saw him coming through in the youth team, Nathan Patterson as well, he just stood out a mile. The third one that just jumped out to me whenever I've seen him, Bailey Rice. If he can't get into the Rangers team, if he can't make that jump, who's going to? I mean, that to me is damning. Now, as is always the case, Derek, there's context, there's stuff we don't know about going on in the academy. He's
had injuries, Bailey Rice, a few comments coming out about that, but
there's lots of stuff like that.
Yeah.
But for me, Bailey Rice should have been really, really treated as, a guy you want to get in, a guy you want to give minutes at all times when he's fit. You want to get him ready for the future because he's such a lovely player, Derek. He's physically strong, lovely left foot, dictates the play. I really, really like the look of him. I've sort of talked about him before and God, I know people in Scotland just can't handle this, but when you compare a player to another player, it reminds me a bit of Nemanja Matic.
Yeah.
Just a big, strong guy in midfield who you think is going to be a destroyer, but is actually a lovely ball player.
Mm-hmm.
So I think these guys need to be out on loan. These, and I think Leon King, he comes in. Gio clearly rates him. He had good games. He had bad games. Derek, let's not beat about the bush. It was up and down. There's a lot of fans who thought, nah, not for me. Some people said, got to give him time. I just don't know what the plan has been around Leon King. Surely getting him out on loan for this season would be the option. I mean, what age is Leon King now? Is he 20, 21?
Well,
and he had that period a couple of years back under Gio, and then it's stasis. 20.
Yeah,
21 in January.
Yeah, he was on the bench the other night. The Rangers were 5-0 up and they made subs. I don't understand why he wasn't brought on at that point just to give him a run out. Surely that is the ideal situation.
It speaks volumes, Derek. I asked Clement about this right at the start of his reign, and he said that he thought at that time McCausland was the only one. He was the only one ready.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought, given how many games Leon King's had, that's probably not a great shout for him to be hearing. But I can kind of understand it as well based on performances. It's a difficult one, Derek, but Rangers is not a functioning club when it comes to giving youth players a chance, is it?
No.
And that's fine. there's unique demands at Rangers, and pretending otherwise is stupid. So they need to have a plan B for these kids. And that's where the loan system comes in. And it was interesting. I know, listen, I think there's been a little bit of hot air about Alastair Johnston's comments about being part of a bigger kind of, what would you call it, multi-club system.
Network of clubs,
I don't think for a minute Alastair Johnston was meaning how it's been taken by some of our tabloid colleagues, who are obviously always looking to hype things up. I think he was talking about Rangers being at the top of a pyramid of clubs, not Rangers fitting into Jim Radcliffe's teams. That would never be accepted. I mean, the Rangers Review would be at the forefront of campaigning against that. That would be utterly ridiculous. A club of Rangers size being part of a group where a Manchester United, a giant behemoth, was above them. That is a non-starter. It'll never work. It should never work. And that would be, to me, a point that would really tip the fans. But I think what Alastair Johnston was talking about was investigating and looking at the idea, given how difficult it is in Scotland to rear our own, because the politics of the SFA and the SPFL mean that it's so difficult to get our B teams into that pyramid. And so many people say, if you talk to youth development experts, we need to get these young players into a team that's in the pyramid with our coaches, playing the Rangers style, being surrounded by the high-quality environment that we have at the Rangers Training Centre, being coached by the high-quality coaches at the Rangers Training Centre, and not sent out to, with no disrespect, the likes of Alloa or Stenhousemuir, where none of these things are controllable. So what I think is interesting is, given that environment, could Rangers buy a second division Belgian team? Could Rangers buy a struggling conference side in England? Could they buy a team in Australia? And could you start a multi-club system at Rangers and it doesn't have to be 20, 30, 40, 50 million pounds to buy these clubs. You buy smaller clubs, We've seen clubs change hand for low amounts. So I think that's something that Rangers should look at. And in that way, you can then use these players in different environments and test them in different ways in different countries. And I think there's something there. But I just want to stress, I kind of did a little bit of digging on this. I think Alastair Johnston was talking more theoretically. He'd had a chat with Jim Radcliffe and his team around that concept in Nice, and he was sort of saying this is something that we should look at. I don't think he was saying Rangers are about to explore the possibility of joining Jim Radcliffe's stable. Yeah, and I mean, I don't know what you think about that, Derek, but for me, well, he's got that'd be a red line.
Yeah, well, if he's looking to invest in the club, I think they should be open to it. He's got vast sums of money, of course, has Jim. But I'm like you, John. You wouldn't want to be a satellite club like that. Although you see, I mean, what's it? The other famous one, Olympiacos and Villa, Forest, sorry, Marinakis owns it, the two clubs. But yeah, it was interesting stuff. And listen, Rangers, I think, John Gilligan said himself, they'll be looking at board restructuring. More so guys coming in with the ideas in the future of running the club as opposed to cash coming in. There was some interesting points, incidentally, that he was discussing about the future of said board. He said currently the board is made up entirely of investors who have consistently funded the club for the past 10 years. The structure served the club well in the initial phase of our recovery. Rangers is now in a much stronger financial position, and this combined with the current refinancing exercise means our business model is now sustainable. Our board structure should now reflect this, with a strong role of independent non-shareholders, non-executives, and more representation from the executive team. A new independent non-executive chair will be announced shortly. with the brief to reconfigure the board to include 2 further non-executive directors, independent, and 2 to 3 more executive directors, including the CEO and the CFO. Plus, we're looking to retain 2 or 3 of the current directors. So there you go. He did say he wanted a more Scottish-based contingent on the board as well, Jonny, which I think is understandable given that the board is spread far and wide across the globe. It makes running Rangers a tad more difficult than what it should be.
Yeah, and I think that can only be a good thing. You want people that are on the ground. And more crucially, Derek, I just think it's time now for the investors, all these guys who have pumped so much money in, and people like the Parks are getting a lot of stick. The Parks have put in over £20 million. John Bennett getting a lot of stick, put in over £20 million. So these guys have really put their money where their mouth is, and that has to be respected, even if things haven't gone well. But I think they are cognizant, they're recognising themselves that really it's time for professionals to come in, professional football guys who can be accountable and allow them to run the club in a different manner. I've always felt it's kind of difficult when you've got really, really rich investors who are coming in, Derek, rich, high net worth individuals who come in and, pony up. I feel the same way about someone like Dave Cormack at Aberdeen. When things are going bad, it's hard to criticise when it's someone, putting in so much of their own wealth. But there is no doubt that the way Rangers have been run can't continue. And I don't think it will continue, Derek, because you look at the CV of Patrick Stewart, it's very impressive. He's spent a long time at the biggest club in world football, heavily involved in what that club is very, very good at and has got very, very right, which has been the commercial side of things. And then obviously moved into the biggest role at the club towards the end, even though it was on an interim basis. That's still a significant amount of experience. And a guy that I think will come in and will look at every aspect of the club properly and modernise how it's working. We will see how that goes from December 16th. Every Rangers fan will hope that on day one he can look at the League Cup trophy gleaming to the left of his desk, and that will be a very, very good start for him. But I think most people would say that it's going to be a really challenging week for Rangers. You've got a difficult game in a difficult place on Sunday, or is it Saturday? You might tell me different.
Sunday, Cup final Sunday.
I'm talking about this weekend.
Yeah, Sunday. We'll go on that shortly.
Sunday, yeah, and then we've got we're looking at a match against a Spurs team that you never know what you're going to get. I watched them last night. They were diabolical, all over the place, Derek. I've never seen a Postecoglou team like that. They were, Bournemouth could have won 5-0.
They want them out down there. The fans, we've seen the videos last night. They've had enough.
It was remarkable. They were at 6s and 7s, and I would fancy Rangers against that Spurs team. But we know that Spurs team can also beat Manchester City in Manchester 4-0. So who knows which Spurs will turn up? And then you've got Celtic on Sunday, a week on Sunday, and we know the importance of that one. But what I would say is Rangers have got 3 wins on the bounce, 3 more wins, and this club will be radically changed, and the mood music will be radically changed.
Yep.
Whether anyone believes that can happen or not is another story, but it's up to Clement and his players to make people believe that it can happen.
I would like to see Rangers have a proper go at Spurs next week. I know we were on talking about it a few weeks ago, Jonny, and of course with the League Cup looming at large, would you be resting players against Spurs? Because the Celtic game is a bigger game. As we get closer to that game, I think I just fancy Rangers at Ibrox on a European night just to inflict more misery on them. Whether Ange is in the dugout for that game remains to be seen. They've got a big game coming up as well. They are very, very unpredictable at this moment in time. Let's hope it's a very poor Spurs team that pitch up at Ibrox.
I mean, there would be nothing more delicious for Rangers fans than being the team that got Ange the sack.
Yeah. Yeah, make it happen, Rangers, because that would also mean that they would have a real strong footing about making it into the top 8, you'd imagine, which would be quite an achievement in this season's competition. Just on the boardroom stuff, Jim McKerrow, I'm not too sure if he's directing this at you personally. Jonny says, bye Dumbarton, Jonny. I think he means Rangers, of course, a club that is struggling at this moment in time financially.
I don't even have enough money to buy Dumbarton, Jim. So... But yeah, it's not a bad shout.
Yep. And the point on Munich, Stephen McGonigal gets in touch. Irish pub Dubliner, Platzel to Munich, and Ned Kelly's Australian bar. So a couple of suggestions there. And looking ahead to Sunday, Mac is wanting us to discuss the Ross County game. Thoughts on Sunday? I want Rangers to go up there and play like they did on Wednesday. Not, I mean, the game against St Johnston was stodgy, wasn't it, last week? They got the result. It wasn't the best at the pitches, but it was sort of more of the same that we've seen from Rangers this season. Wednesday was a break from that. The handbrake was off. They played with Verve. There was a lot of movement in the front four, which I really enjoyed watching. I think he keeps pretty much the same team, Jonny. I'm just trying to think off the top of my head who could possibly come in. I'd probably be keeping the same 11, would you?
I don't know. I suppose you perform like that, and I agree, Derek. I mean, I watched the game and I almost couldn't believe what I was watching because it was just so dynamic and there was so much verve and it was so entertaining. It was really a promising display. Maybe Dujon Sterling comes in, a bit more of a battle in that game up there, and give James Tavernier a rest. I think it's no surprise to me. James Tavernier in the last 2 games has looked like James Tavernier of 2 years ago because he's had a break, he's had a spell out. And maybe to get the best out of Tavernier, what you have to do is you have to really, really aggressively rotate now.
Yeah.
Give him 1 or 2 games and then bring him out for a while, put him back in.
Good. He's been good since he came back, John. I think it's probably
he absolutely has.
The way to go about it.
I mean, is this the best spell of form in over a year for Tavernier?
Probably, yeah. Let us know if you disagree, folks. But yeah, it was. I would not disagree with that point. I think you need to manage his minutes. He's at an age where he cannot play, even though he says himself that he's able to play every single game. You need to take that decision out of the player's hands there. He would, I'm sure, play if he was a manager every minute of every game, but he's not the manager, so that's up to Clement to manage him.
I know it's not popular, but when have I ever cared about that, Derek? But Tavernier and Connor Goldson before him as well have been chronically overplayed by Rangers over the last 6-7 years. Chronically overplayed. And they've done themselves a disservice because there was times when they should have taken a step out where their form's not been good, but they've just relentlessly played through it. And I don't think there's any player in the world that can play 65 games a season the way that those two have for so long. And obviously, Goldson's away, but in Tavernier's case, and not see a regression, especially as you come into your mid-30s. So I think Tavernier, giving him that kind of role where he's playing 25 to 35 games a season, I think you'll get the old James Tavernier if you do that, Derek. And you can also start the process of bedding in Dujon Sterling to take over or whoever it may be.
Yep. I thought you were going to carry on there. Dam says, when Johnny's on the show, I always have to get that extra pillow because I know I'm here for the long haul. So, yeah, it's been a bumper show today. Big thank you to you all for tuning in, folks. Derek, a nice little, I don't know if that's a plant, Jonny, but Derek says, always great, good to see Jonny on, always like listening to him. So
that's my old man. Thanks, Dad.
Yeah. How are Rangers going to get on Sunday then, Jonny? Are they going to win and keep that winning run going? They have scored 11 goals, conceded 1 in the last 3 games. That's much more like it.
Yeah, definitely much more like it. And a continuation of that kind of form, we'll see a real feel-good factor going into that Spurs game. And as we know, it's one that I've been really worried about from the point of view of Rangers over the last couple of months. I always felt, looking at the way Spurs can play, that they could come to Ibrox and cause problems.
Yeah.
But you know what? I think Rangers are getting them at the right time. You know, you couldn't get a better time to get them. And I think that's changed the dynamic somewhat. And maybe, just maybe, those Rangers players will have been watching that game like I was last night and sitting there going, this lot are not to be feared. Certainly not playing the way they're playing. They've got bloody good players. Of course they do. They've got better players than Rangers. Of course they do. But they were at 6s and 7s, Derek. It was a truly disgraceful performance. As bad as Kilmarnock were the other night, Spurs were worse. That's how bad they were last night. It was just completely ridiculous. So, you know what? I would say I'm feeling bullish at the moment. How would you feel looking into that?
Well, I watched them at Man City, and I've got to say I was very fearful after watching them tear Man City apart. But they themselves have been off the boil. It's fair to say they got back to winning ways against Forest at the weekend. But all is not well at Manchester City, and Tottenham were excellent that night. But you see the results since then, and the results that preceded that game at City, and you're thinking this is a Spurs team that are all over the shop. So I just hope that Rangers leave everything out on the pitch on Thursday. If they get beat, they get beat, but don't come off the pitch with any regrets. I think they are capable of beating Tottenham, which I think would be a marvellous result. Rangers in Europe, you don't necessarily concern yourself too much. The Lyon game sticks it in the craw a little bit, because I think if the two big chances, Tavernier and Czerny, could have had Rangers right in the driving seat on that night, and it could have been a different outcome as it unfolded. Lyon ran away with it, and I think Tottenham better side than Lyon technically in terms of the players they have at their disposal, but they are all is not well, and I can fancy Rangers on a European night at Ibrox. No, you know what it's like, Johnny. If they can get the first goal in that game, I think it can be a famous evening there, and set them up well for the trip to Old Trafford and then the home game against Union Saint-Gilloise. So, looking forward to it. They need to do the business on Sunday, though. If you go into that, you could very much go into that game on a downer if you don't pick up maximum points. We all know what it's like in Planet Rangers, so crucial that they continue in that good run of form. Incidentally, it is press conference day today, folks. We will all hear from a player around 1:30, and Philip Clement speaking to the press around 1:45. So we'll have all the usual coverage from that to look forward to. So, we'll speak to you a little later on. Big thanks to Johnny. Who'd want to jump in here, Johnny?
I was just going to say, if we just decided that Spurs are not a threat in any way, shape or form, and the Rangers are going to win that game quite comfortably, it feels like we have, which I'm not sure about it, but I'm prepared to just go with the flow, Derek.
Yes, I think, yes. Rangers win on Sunday. We can look forward to the build-up, and I'm sure it'll be quite the occasion on Thursday. But hopefully nobody clips us up if things go badly wrong on Thursday night. Let's hope it doesn't. But thank you to you all for tuning in as ever. Just a reminder, if you haven't subscribed yet, I know that many of you tune into the shows and are not subscribers. If you hit that subscribe button, hit the notification bell, when you'll never miss a video when we go live. There's plenty of content over on the YouTube channel, folks, to get stuck into. Right, we'll leave it there. If we don't speak to you later, enjoy your Friday. Bye for now.